All right, so I'm here with Leo, and he brought his colt over. He's been having a little bit of trouble with him. Can you just talk me through a little bit about what you were doing with him and where you started running into some trouble?
Well, I've had him for a year. I bought him as a yearling, so I started doing groundwork last year. And the biggest problem I had was when you get him going forward, he quits. He'd take about 3 steps, jam into the ground, and not want to go forward. And it's pretty hard to train a horse that doesn't want to go forward. You know, all the groundwork stuff, he's great. So to get him to go forward, I would use a big ball, you know, get him pushing that one. He wasn't afraid of that, no problem, until he jumped on top of it. That was fun. But at any rate, the other thing I used was the flag. He loves to do the flag. He's supposed to be a cow horse.
Yeah, you're talking about a mechanical flag.
Mechanical flag, yep. And also, I'd have him go behind another horse just to get him to go forward free. Well, one time I was doing that, and we went into a trot real nice, went into a lope. That first step into lope, he went straight up in the air and just about over backwards.
So he reared up.
He reared up right away, real fast.
Fell off backwards.
Yeah. I ended up in the sand. So after that, I just slowed way down. I'd get him to go forward real slow, look for little steps every day. By the time I finished up, I had him loping freely around the arena, all the way around once, twice, the other direction once, twice on the correct lead. Good place to stop. So then I put him up for 2 months. And I started riding him here a couple of weeks ago. And at any rate, so I ran into the same problems. If he had any, well, first of all, even on the groundwork, he'd do the stuff you'd want to, but you could see he would be high-headed. He really wouldn't kind of go ahead and breathe out and let down, you know, those kind of things. So you could see that in there. When he wanted to go forward, the same problem. Other than that, he learns really quickly. Yeah. Really quick, which is, as you know, is a good thing and can be a problem sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what we can, what changes we can make to help him get a little more comfortable moving forward and go from there. So let's start off by just kind of show me some of the groundwork exercises you've been doing to kind of get him ready.
Saddle off.
Do you normally saddle him first?
I'll saddle him first.
Okay. Well, we'll get the saddle on and go from there. If you guys are interested in having me be your coach and be able to ask me for advice and questions anytime, go check out my Patreon page. We post a new video there every week. We got a pretty large library on there at this point. We do fun monthly challenges, so if you guys want to get some support with your horsemanship and not feel stuck in the mud, make sure you guys get on there. We'll leave a link in the description below. And thank you guys for watching.
I'd have him disengage his hind quarter. I'd like him to switch eyes like he did right there. I might ask him to give a little bit here. Pick up on the rein a little bit maybe, see if he'll come around with that. Maybe lead him by a foot. So I'll do that on both sides usually. I don't think I have to do that here today. You know, I might ask him to give off a pressure. Then I'm going to ask him to go around. I'm just going to give him a feel. Let him start. I like to start at a walk, and then a trot. See how he doesn't want to keep going? I might want him to come down to a trot off of my energy kind of, and maybe if I can keep him at a walk, that's where he wants to stop.
Go ahead and trot him the other way and just observe where his hindquarters and ribs are at on the circle. Don't change anything, but just observe, make an observation. Like even right now.
Right now, yeah, his ribs are in.
Yeah, and the hindquarters are in too. Go ahead and trot him. Don't change anything, just I just want you to just observe that.
Yeah, his shoulder's down.
His shoulder's on the outside circle and his hip is on the inside circle.
Yep.
That's a problem. Because that tells us he's in a defensive mindset.
Okay.
Every horse naturally comes out of the box in that position. And to whatever degree they don't do that position, it's somebody took the time to train them to not go like that. And when you're riding, it's a bad feeling. When you're trying to circle or set up for something and they're pushed in the opposite way, it's like one of the first things you feel before the next thing you feel that feels even worse.
There's a little lick right there.
Yep.
He's off, kind of looking the other way.
But everything I'm seeing looks really good to this point, other than that circle. That circle would be like, most everything I've seen you do, I would give it a positive, like a scale of -10 to +10. I would give it like a 4 or 5, which is completely acceptable for a young horse, right? That circle, I would give it a -2.
Because of the ribs, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And so right off the top, that's like a glaringly obvious thing to me that we have to change that. That riding them and moving forward or bending them is not going to go well if they're moving around us in that position.
And that's one thing that I knew I needed a little help on, because he's always got his head out. He's not quite relaxed and stepping in, okay?
Yep. So I'm just pointing that out for your understanding of just on the ground. That's going to be so far that's the only thing that I see that's like we for sure got to change that to a positive number.
I used to move his front end, to 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, back end too, but I don't do that anymore on the ground because I do it in the saddle.
Yep.
I figured he doesn't need it.
Okay.
So I might also take him and ask him to go around and just add a little bit more to the deal and say, okay, let's go. Come on. So I've done a little of that with him. I can bring him over here and...
Now, I want you to do that again. Again,
Okay.
this is part for your education.
Okay.
Do that again. If you were riding him and working the flag and you felt a horse come through the turn with their head up and elevating in their shoulders, would you be like, ooh, there's a nice cow horse turn? Or would you be like, oh, we gotta get rid of that. We don't want that cow horse turn to feel like that.
Okay.
Which one would you go with?
Well, I wouldn't want him up in the air on the front end.
Yeah.
I do want him on his rear end when he turns.
Yes, but there's a difference, right? Okay, so if you just did that and then stop, you left brace in him. Okay, but if he can go through those same exercises, but do it softer with his head down and still pivoting on the haunches and everything, but just come through it with a little more relaxation, we would have left him in a little better frame of mind. And so what I'm observing is there's probably not going to be one grand thing that needs to change. There's probably just some little things that if you can be more aware of these things on the ground when you're warming them up and then more aware of it in the saddle, we can probably keep things from escalating. Does that make sense? Yeah. But right off, the bending is a really big one because they don't like the feeling of how they're traveling when they're counterbend because they don't want to be in a defensive frame of mind. They want to be in a relaxed frame of mind. So if going forward doesn't feel good to him, he's not going to want to do it. Okay, so if he can go forward more relaxed, he'll want to do it more, and then he'll offer it more in a better way. And then anytime a horse gets defensive, it's like one of the number one things I'm trying to do with young horses is take brace out of them. Yes. And just put in relaxation. Okay.
That's what I'm doing here.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
But you're leaving brace in there.
Okay.
If you're accepting kind of a hop through bracey turn because he's coming through the turn with his shoulder first and he's hopping through it, and that would be the exact same thing. And I know because your competition level in ranch versatility, I know you're very aware of how your horse turns on a cow, and you would not want that feel there in the saddle. But because you're not feeling it on the ground, you don't feel what that feels like to ride that. You just kind of accepted it and moved on. And so that's something that is going to be really important to just get rid of those little brace spots where it might be on how you presented it. It might be on just doing a few more repetitions until he comes through it a little soft. But let's just go ahead and look at that real quick. So just do those same exercises again, but just observe that he comes through that turn just like you would want him to do it if you were riding him. So that's better. You slowed it down, but it went better. Better. Do it with some energy now. So don't hustle him in the turn just like on a flag, but you can go a little faster out of the turn. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Same, all those same rules. There. You see the difference on that one?
Yep.
Again, if you were riding that, you would feel that horse offer to come through the turn right there, and you'd be like, ooh, that was a good one. We'll take that all day. So I think it's just a really realistic observation to say, would I want to ride that when I'm watching how they're moved? Would I want to ride that or not? You know, is that the same things that we're looking for there? And especially somebody like you that has a lot of experience riding advanced horses in ranch versatility and all the different things we ask for there, that'll be meaningful to you because you're like, oh, yeah, we want that. Some people don't know what that should feel like, and so they don't know the difference between, you know, what a turn that the horse is participating in looks like, or if they got a little stuck, like the first one he got a little stuck in when he had a little speed, you know, and then the next one he just rotated through it and moved on. It was all smooth and nice.
So just slow that turn up to make sure he kind of gets smoother, and then hustle him out of that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's not just about slowing it down, it's just building, because I want to challenge them wherever they're at. Okay. So if he can do it at 2 miles an hour, I want to try 3. Okay. If he can do it at 4 miles an hour, I want to go for 5, you know. But the secret is, just like in training a horse on a flag or cow ridden, sure, you don't add pressure in the turn. Right. You if you got a little stuck or bound up in the turn, we're going to accelerate out of the turn, okay, and then set it up again. So you just offer that soft directness through the turn, and that will hustle out of it. Okay. So he can be going faster before you ask him to turn, and then he can go faster out of it. Okay. But you're just looking, because essentially they feel a little bit of a bind in any of those moves, and that's where he gets a little stuck sometimes. And that is, horses are like, there's categories. So if he's rearing, bucking, or hopping through the turn, that all fits under the same category of he's feeling a little bound up. And so anything that we can do to help him feel less bound up is going to be helpful. Yep. The question is, what makes him feel bound up? Some horses it's the saddle, the cinch in the saddle. Some horses it's going forward. Some horses it's a tight turn. Some horses it's a hindquarter yield. You know, it just depends on what it is. Some horses it's all the above, and you got to chip away at everything. Now, was there anything else that you added to your groundwork program?
Yes.
Okay.
But I got to put the bit in.
Okay.
With the bridle.
Let's see that.
So this is kind of what I've done to add a little pressure to him. I want him, when he does have pressure, he doesn't feel relaxed, I wanted him to find a way to relax. Yep. So I put the bit in him. I'd kind of pick it up pretty short on one side, and then I'd ask him to go around. I want him to step underneath from behind, and I might put the flag on him. Say, okay, the answer I want is softness up front. There.
Now, do you feel like you taught him that without the flag first?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that one is giving you, see how he's crossing over in his hind end and bending?
Yeah.
And you said it's yielded some results, that the rides got a little bit better after doing some of these things?
Right. When I picked up on him, like right there.
Yeah.
He went into the bit, and he went soft.
Yep.
And so there was times where I put quite a bit of pressure on him with this.
Yeah.
You know, looking for his answer to be some softness and not just gone.
I think you got the right idea. The only thing I would change if I was doing that same thing, the same project we'll call it, I would separate them.
Okay.
I would expose him to the flag on one hand, and then I would teach him to bend and get soft afterwards or before that. So there are two isolated things. One is just bending and getting soft like you're doing right now.
Okay.
And then the second one is exposing him with the flag without the bend, and then put the two together.
And I had exposed him with the flag on the lead rope.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is a little different deal. So right here, you know, you can see he's, you know, it doesn't take much.
Yep, that's what we want, for sure.
My first ride. Go forward. He's got a lot more space out here, so I think he'll be more forward.
Yeah, what I'd like you to do is pretend this arena had 4 quadrants. divide it, stay in this quadrant.
Okay.
So you can make a big arena small by giving them an invisible boundary over here of just saying, hey, we're going to stay in this area.
Sure. See how he lost his forward right there?
Yep.
Now he's going to do this.
I like your recovery strategy there. But now hold him in there a little longer.
Okay.
And pick up and release on that inside rein. Don't just hold it. You can bend them when you need control. Go ahead and bend them and hold them. Once you don't need control, you're safe there. Then work that rein where you pick it up, put his nose where you want it, and then give it back to him.
Okay.
And you're starting to expect him to stay there like you did on the ground.
Okay.
Like you pointed out to me, you let go of the rein and you showed me that he would stay on that circle on his own. That's what we're looking for riding too. And this is a good place to teach him to get soft off your leg too, because on that little circle you can ask him to bend around your leg there a little bit.
Yeah, even when I do this, I reach down, I'll bring my leg in, get him a step behind.
Yep.
And then maybe step forward through with this front end.
Yep, the only thing I would say is every yield you've showed me, you've gone through it really quick. I would get a few more steps out of each yield.
Okay.
Like 3 to 5 more steps every time you yield, and just be a little more sure that he's there with you. So like see how he's right away ready to go to that turn on the haunches?
Yep.
Get him forward in that 3 or 5 steps before you let him out of it. So see if you can get a little bit of forward here while on that bend, but you got to be flexible with your fingers. Yeah, there you go. There, now let him out of it. Yep. This is looking good. How does he feel compared to usual?
He's pretty good right now.
Feels pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty typical of what I've had lately. Now, see right there, he's fighting it a little bit.
Yep.
His head's up. He's fighting that a little bit. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Yep. Good.
There we go.
Very nice. Now let
There
him out
we
of
go.
it. So what I would suggest there for that yield, I love using that yield, that relaxed rein, as a pattern to build off of. There's so many things you can do from there. You could widen out of it, use an inside leg to push the horse over. You could do a hindquarter yield out of it. You could go into a turn the haunches. But until he gets more comfortable moving forward, I don't think I would add those in. Okay. I would keep him forward, yielding there, and then I would go out of it. Okay. If he was an energetic horse that has like too much energy, which he's gonna, as soon as you get him going forward, you're gonna have the opposite problem. He's gonna be more forward and impulsive, and that's how it goes. Because the only reason he's not really moving forward right now is he's not that comfortable to move forward. Once he's comfortable, you're going to have a forward horse. I'm sure of it. He's probably not going to be terrible with it, but anyways, if I was trying to use up a little energy, I had a horse that had too much energy. I want to walk and they're trying to trot on me or whatever. If I put him in that relaxed rein position, I'm going to do something else there to use some energy with their feet. I'm going to do a hindquarter yield. I'm going to do a forequarter yield, then ease them forward out of it. Right. But walking forward on a circle has like 20%, 10 to 20% forward thought to walk forward on this little circle. Doing a forequarter yield or a hindquarter yield has like 0% forward. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking forward at all. Right. So that's why I don't want to do it with him. Because it'll shut him down from thinking forward, even though at this point we want him to think forward a little bit as the answer. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
But if I got a horse that's too much forward, I'm going to do one of those yields that takes the forward away a little bit more,
So maybe not turning him on the haunches so much because that slows him down?
Not out of that yield. Until he knows that yield and can stay on it for a circle or two. Right when you first started it, you showed me he had about a quarter of a circle and then he was ready. See how he's ready to quit there? Yep. I want to fix that. I want to get him to go at least a full circle like he did there. Now let him out of it. Now go forward out of it. Yep. Does that make sense? Yep. So you're taking that forward thought and saying, yep, that's a good idea. Let's go with that more. If we had too much forward, again, we do the opposite.
Come on.
Because you're actually teaching him to find forward on that little circle,
Yep.
which is really good,
Yep.
because see how he's getting a little stuck there?
Yep, big time.
And they will. That's exactly what a colt, you know, kind of does and feels like at first. But there is a change that happens where once they get going forward, then they can go a little too much. Go ahead and bend him down there. Yep. And just relax your legs a little bit. Let's come back to a walk. Good.
There we go.
Good.
That
Now
was
let him
better.
out of it. Yeah, just cruise along. Very good. Very nice. To me, he's a typical colt. You know, like everything he's doing is just a typical colt, you know. So for this game, I want to let him, see there, he made a good choice. And you already fixed this, set this up for me by the groundwork you did with the snaffle on. But this is something, before you ask him to do some exercising on the circle, I'm going to tap him in his rib cage there. And part of this is a bit of exposure to my legs coming on. Because if he gets reactive to that tapping, like you were talking about exposing him to pressure, that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. Instead of yielding, he got more worried about it. So I'm just going to leave that pressure there until he walks with a little bit more of a bend. Because I don't want him to be afraid of this pressure. And some people watching the video might think, oh, I would never touch my horse that much. This is not much pressure. Like you think about other horses in the pasture kicking each other or whatnot, like this is not a big deal. But I'm still gonna wait here until right there. He stepped off the pressure without speeding up, but I had to climb the rope all the way up to his halter before I got it. So I wanna be able to ask him for that bend when he's out there on the circle. And there we got some softness, he took a breath. So whenever there's a moment like that where there is a little bit of pressure on him, it's good to just let him soak on that. He's switching back now to the correct nervous system, getting more comfortable. Now we'll try it again. But I think one thing that I would have you change right off the bat, besides getting more bend here, is staying with each yield a little longer until there's a little more relaxation there. And I would say that was better. That starts with the feet being softer, moving in a more rhythmic, relaxed fashion. And then the next part that comes through is the head will start to lower on its own. You know, I never ride with tie downs or martingales or anything like that, because as a horse gets relaxed, they naturally lower their head. And so it's like I let that happen organically. You know, I've never even thought to myself, oh, I need to put something to tie him down. Now I understand people barrel racing and team roping and stuff, like I don't know about those sports, if they need them or not, I don't really know. But I'm just saying you're saying, you know, his head's kind of up or this and that. It's like, oh, well, let's put this tie down on him and make him keep his head down. Well, that would be just forcing him into that position, versus if we get him a little more relaxed, his head comes down on its own anyways. And so by you sticking with those yields a little longer, you're going to facilitate more of that confidence and relaxation. Let me just test this other way here one more time. But you see, I don't do this for a long time. We're not drilling on it. We're just peppering it in. And see how he started to take that shape on his own there? That's a very different looking circle than the first time you sent him off, right? And so he wants to give it to us. We just kind of got to ask those questions. So now I'll let him drift off to a bigger circle. Now there he broke gait, and then I'm going to go ahead and touch him. So I'm not going to micromanage him into maintaining gait. I'm going to start teaching him to maintain gait now. So he broke gait, but turns out there's pressure there. There's no pressure here. There's pressure there. Does that make sense? So it's a balance of letting him make mistakes, and then he had a different idea that time. So now I'll stop him here. Also, just by looking at his body, I don't think he's naturally a super low-headed horse. And so I wouldn't try to make him be either. And that's what's really nice about ranch versatility, is there's no judge that's sitting there grading who has got the lowest headed horse out there. You're actually going to get penalized if their head is below their withers. And so let him keep his head there. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. Now, right there, he's a little hollowed. And right there, it's not as bad. Little hollow again. So it's kind of subtly different. That's better. That's better. Same game now at a canter. Now, I will kiss to them while they're cantering nicely, and I do that because they'll associate that when I use that cue to canter under saddle. I don't want it to be spank. If you spank 2 or 3 times in a row, when I'm riding them, they're anticipating pressure coming on. And so I'd rather just let them lope around, and while they're loping nicely, then I'll smooch to them. Now, the other thing that I would say, let's say you were dropping him off here for training, and I was going to be riding this horse for the next 20 days. I would not take any chances. If he's already learned to buck somebody off a couple times, you got a pattern started. And so he's probably going to get bothered again at some point. Now, the idea would be that he's less committed to it, and that you notice a change in him and you recover sooner, okay? But what I mean is, I wouldn't take any chance. So even though you probably could do 5 to 10 minutes of groundwork and then get on and ride, I wouldn't chance it. I would be very thorough on my warm-up for the next like 20 rides, because to me it's not worth getting hurt over. Now, one of the games that I like to play, I'm gonna be peppering in, see him there, he's loosening up a little bit, that's good, is I'm waiting for him to tell me where he's thinking about going. He's leaning left a little bit. So I'll pick up a rein and I'll over agree with him. And I'll say, oh, you want to go left? Let me help you go left. And you were saying he kind of argues a little bit with the reins. That's a good way to offset that. So now I'll say, where do you want to go this time? I'm trying to stay down here a little bit and not get too far down there. But if I was in a smaller arena where I could be turning loose a little bit more there, that'd be a good thing to do. So you're definitely going to want to work on that for your riding guide. So like here, he's leaning left. So you just pick up a rein and say, oh, I wanted to go left. That's a good idea. And then I can add in my leg a little bit to support that turn. The other thing I want you to practice a lot proactively, so don't wait for things to go bad to need this, but practice this relaxed rein exercise. So it's inside rein, inside leg, and you're just asking him to follow his nose around and maintain a nice forward circle. He's trying to cut in a little bit on me, but I don't have spurs on, so I'm having to use my leg quite a bit more than you were. I don't mind that on a young horse. I would rather him get really comfortable and kind of trust my leg. There we go. Does that make sense? Like, I don't mind needing to put him on him and bump him with it and let him just get comfortable. If they get to the point where they're wearing the pressure too much, I'll ride with a little stick, a little crop, and I'll tap him with that. So like I'd have it in my hand here and I just tap his ribs just a little bit. To me, he's not quite to that point where I'd want to do that with him, but I would do that on a horse before I would ride him with spurs if I felt like they were still a bit goosey. So there, thinking about trot, he got a little high-headed. And then we'll just bend him down and recover. And you just get him soft again and then go on again. So you just pepper that in. I don't mind, I mean, he's not gonna be perfect, so I don't mind if his head goes up. But he gets super tense at the trot, and that's part of why it's so rough to ride. But you're just gonna do a whole bunch of these. Is that helpful?
Very helpful.
Why don't you come over here and just tell me what are the things that stood out to you that you're gonna take away from?
Well, one of the things you said I remember is, you know, sometimes we present an idea and they feel trapped. And that's been him.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I came here for was how to get this guy going forward and relaxing. Teach him to relax, which is exactly all these things.
Yeah.
You know, I've started colts before, but never run into this like this. So, you know, I was halfway or a quarter way on some of these things, but you added a lot of things that I can add in and look for. Even like having him on the ground and the side pass. You can see I've side passed him,
Yeah.
but I never get him to go until his head went down.
Yeah.
How far do I go? You know, you keep going, pretty soon you're nagging on him. The same thing with the circle. Okay, keep going with that circle, then he'll need to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to saying, okay, you did the circle,
Yep.
I'll quit now. So I've got a lot better ideas about how to teach him to relax in these maneuvers, and that's what I'm looking for.
Super.
If he can relax, you know, I can show him to do the rest of the stuff, so,
Awesome.
yeah.